have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hi there. This is Jane Kearns, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the current issues of the Niagara Gazette on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And the first one that I've got here is, the first one I'm going to read, I think, is the March the 1st. I'll start with March the 1st. Yep, going to do March the 1st. Okay, Easter brunch, Sunday, April the 5th, at Antonio's, 10:30 to 3. For reservations, please call 716-283-7444. That sounds like a good thing. That's on the front page. Okay, election reality check. Local election officials cite multiple safeguards against voter fraud. This is by Mark Shearer at NiagaraGazette.com. Non-citizens voting in the U.S. elections, dead people rising from their graves to cast votes, foreign agents with nefarious intent influencing outcomes using fraudulent mail-in ballots. Voter fraud allegations remain a point of debate for many Americans as Donald Trump continues to push his old claims without evidence about election interference robbing him of victory in the 2020 election. During Tuesday's State of the Union address, Trump again suggests illegal aliens can be stopped from voting through approval of Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, commonly known as SAVE, S-A-V-E Act, which would require voters to provide proof of citizenship and photo identification nationwide. Perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the SAVE American Act to stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections, end quote, from Donald Trump. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. And, of course, that's not true. That's my comment. On Friday, multiple media outlets, including the Washington Post, reported a group of pro-Trump attorneys and supporters have circulated a draft presidential executive order that relies on claims of Chinese interference in the 2020 election to justify a national emergency declaration designed to grant the president sweeping power over voting. While it's unclear if Trump is considering or would ultimately issue the order, multimedia outlets reported the 17-page draft order would mandate the use of voter ID and hand counting of ballots while banning mail-in ballots for the upcoming midterm elections. So, what's the record of voter fraud in Niagara County in recent years? The county's two election commissioners, one representing the Democrats and the other representing the Republicans, say based on their experiences, there hasn't been any. Allen, an election board's veteran with more than 2 decades of experience, doesn't recall a single proven incident of a non-citizen or dead person voting in an election in Niagara County while she's been on the job. In my 24 years, never, she said, end quote. The Board of Elections has been here longer than me, but with me, never. Allen's counterpoint, Republican Election Commissioner Jennifer Donato, said her experience has been the same. I don't know of anybody who's ever voted that's deceased or is not a U.S. citizen, she said. Under illegal immigration reform, the Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, non-citizens are expressly prohibited from voting in federal elections. Federal law does allow non-citizens to cast ballots in certain local elections. However, no state, including New York, allows non-citizens to vote in statewide elections. The conservative group Heritage Foundations has advocated for a photo ID voter requirement to curb election fraud. The foundation's own database of voter fraud cases has documented a total of 1,546 proven, quote-unquote, instances nationwide dating back to the 1980s. An analysis conducted by the American Immigration Council suggests only 68 of those cases involved non-citizens voting, or 0.0001% of the more than 1 billion casts votes in U.S. Thousands of elections over the past 40 years. Both Allen and San Donato say there are safeguards in place to protect the integrity of the elections, and they have proven effective. Before anyone can vote in the state of New York, they must be registered to vote with the Board of Elections where they reside. Allen noted that the state's voter registration form includes an affidavit section where applicants are required to swear or affirm under threat of penalties for non-compliance to being citizens of the United States and having lived in the city, county, or village for at least 30 days before the election. Violators face fines of up to $5,000 and could be put in jail for up to 4 days. If someone went through the process of registering, they'd have to have a signed affidavit, Allen said. Allen said absentee ballots have to be requested and once received must be signed by the recipient before they are returned. Those ballot signatures are checked as well, she said. Importantly, she noted, no one can obtain an absentee ballot unless they've been registered as a voter in the county. As for the idea that dead people can cast votes in elections, Allen says she's not into seances, and neither is the county elections boards. She said voter rolls are regularly monitored, and election board purges deceased voters from the system once their deaths have been verified. Allen said modern electronic voting machines also serve as a check, as they have 3 methods of monitoring votes. The machines have tapes used to count vote totals, compact flashcards that read ballots entered into the machines, and finally the paper ballots filled out by voters visiting the polling sites. Voters do sign their names prior to filling out their ballots, and trained on-site inspectors are required to make sure signatures match registration records. Allen said that all polling locations are required to have both a Democrat and a Republican inspector on hand at all times while polls are open. You have equal representation at the polling sites, just like we do at the Board of Elections, she said. I think we have good people working for the polls, Allen added. I think our system is rock solid. San Donato said anyone who suspects a person of voting illegally should bring evidence to the election board so that it can be passed along to the Niagara County District Attorney's Office for further review. We would be happy to look into it, San Donato said. We certainly don't want something like that going on in Niagara County. Okay, so that's the end of that. Oh, this is interesting. I'm now on page 4, and I noticed on the side this looks like a good article, so I'm going to read that. And there's a picture of an eagle, bald eagle, carrying a huge stick to build a nest, I think. Anyway, the lead title is Spring is in the Air for Our Local Wildlife by Douglas Dominion, The Great Outdoors. Spring doesn't arrive officially until March the 20th, but really, Mother Nature controls the timing. Much local wildlife is preparing for spring now, as mating season is underway or starting soon. Some wildlife, such as fox and coyote, start pairing up in January ahead of mating, which usually occurs in February or early March. These animals typically keep the same mates their whole lives and are now very active looking for den sites. The young of both species generally start giving birth in April. Raccoons and minks are out actively looking for mates during the same period, but generally a little more into March. Skunk breeding season usually starts in February to March, and burrs occur in May. Squirrels have 2 mating seasons, late winter, December through February, and midsummer, May through August. During these mating periods, you'll often see acrobatics as males chase females around the trees. I've noticed that squirrels around my house are very busy with this activity now. Opossums are different. Their mating season begins January, February, lasts through the summer. They often produce 2 litters per year. The first litter, early as late February or March, The gestation period is very short, lasting only 12 or 13 days. After the young are born, they're called joeys, and they're the size of honeybees. They remain in their mother's pouch for 50 to 70 days, after which they travel on their mother's back. No wonder so many of them are hit on the road. Weasels are also a bit different. They typically mate during mid to late September, specifically July and August, and the females experience delayed implantation, meaning the embryos do not develop immediately and the young are not born until the following April or May. Muskrats are off a bit as well, mating from March through August and having 2 to 3 litters per year. Primary mating and nesting seasons for songbirds starts in May and runs through June, with the actual raising of young taking place through July into August. Canada geese start pairing up in late February and March, with eggs laying through mid-May. After the eggs are hatched, the parents become aggressive towards any threat to young goslings, including humans. Ducks start picking their nesting territories in April, and in most nesting occurs through May into summer. Hawk mating and nesting season usually runs from late July and January. Good grief, I'm obviously wishing it were warmer. Hawk mating and nesting season are generally from late January through August, with the peak occurring between March and May. Most local owls start mating in February and March, with nesting from March to June. The exception is the great horned owl. This large owl starts courting in November-December, and its nesting season is January and February. These owls don't build their own nests. They use old hawk or crow's nests and sometimes a tree cavity. Throughout the State Department of Environmental Conservation's Tonawanda and Oak Orchard's wildlife management areas, there are horizontal tube-like nesting structures put up in shallow water areas for mallard ducks to nest in. And one year, a great horned owl used one. Many years ago, when the first video cameras was placed on a local eagle nest, the eagles found a great horned owl incubating eggs in their nest and were unable to evict the squatters. Bald eagles use the same nest every year, unless the nest or tree comes down or they've had a previous nesting season failure. They start repairing their nest during the winter, and by the time of the year, they're very active rebuilding and adding to it. A few pairs have already laid eggs, but in March is the real egg-laying time. Things may seem slow and inactive in the great outdoors, with winter still locked on us, but wildlife carries on as usual. If you venture out there for a hike or just to watch what's going on, remember to keep your distance from nesting areas of bald eagles and owls, as disturbances could cause nest failure. Spring is coming, even though it doesn't look like it now. That's Doug Dominion, outdoor and nature photographer, resides in Medina. Contact him if you have questions, 585-796-4022. If you have pets, Niagara County's rabies vaccination clinic schedule is coming up. Niagara County has released the dates and locations of its 2026 free rabies immunization clinics. State law requires all cats and dogs and ferrets to have current rabies vaccination from 4 months of age onward. Pet owners must make an appointment to bring their pets or pet into any county clinic. Registration will open on the first business day of the week of the clinic. Go to www.niagaracountygov/rabies clinic or call 716-439-7490. Note the paperwork and pet containment requirements. This is the clinic schedule. April the 11th, 9 a.m. to noon at the town of Somerset Highway Garage, 8700 Haight Road. June the 6th, 9 a.m. to noon at Hyde Park Oasis Centennial Pavilion at 911 Robbins Drive, Niagara Falls. July the 11th, 9 a.m. to noon at the town of Wilson Highway Garage at 13356 Wilson Cambria Road. And September the 12th, 9 a.m. to noon at the town of Lockport Highway Department at 6560 Dysinger Road. December the 5th through the 9th at 9 a.m. to noon on the City of North Tonawanda Public Works Department, 758 Erie Avenue. There's also in this informational section a free pain management workshop. Niagara County Health Department's free 6-week chronic pain self-management workshop will be offered at Lockport Memorial Hospital, 6001 Shimer Road on Mondays beginning March the 23rd. Individuals with chronic and caregivers of persons with chronic pain are welcome. Sign up by calling Stacy Knott, Nursing Operations Manager at 716-278-8596. For information as to how participating in the workshops can help one manage pain, visit www.niagaracounty.com/chronic pain, period. Okay. Another on the same page. NASA revamps Artemis moon landing program by Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. NASA said Friday it's adding an extra moon mission by Artemis astronauts before attempting a high-risk lunar landing with a crew. The shakeup in the flight lineup and push for a faster pace came just 2 days after NASA's new moon rocket returned to its hangar for more repairs, and a safety panel warned the space agency to scale back its overly ambitious goals for humanity's first lunar landing in more than half a century. Artemis 2, a lunar fly-around by 4 astronauts, is off until until at least April because of rocket problems. The follow-up mission, Artemis 3, had been targeting a landing near the moon's south pole by another pair of astronauts a year or so later, but the long gaps between flights and concern over the readiness of a lunar lander and moonwalking suits, NASA's new administrator, Jared Isaacman, announced that the mission would instead focus on landing a lunar lander into orbit around Earth for docking practice by Orion capsule astronauts in 2027. Okay, let's see. We'll go back to the front page and see if we missed anything. Okay. North Tonawanda priest is ordered to seek counseling. Reverend Michael LaMarca had been charged with second-degree harassment following a December incident. This is by Robert Creenan of the Niagara Gazette. North Tonawanda priest, charged with physically harassing a parishioner, has been ordered to undertake 6 months of counseling with a protective order issued on the behalf of the victim. The Reverend Michael LaMarca was sentenced Friday morning by North Tonawanda City Court in regard to a second-degree harassment charge. He was given until August the 26th to complete his counseling. A no offensive contact order was also issued on Friday. It's a protective order that allows the parties to be near each other, but requires the restrained person to stop all threatening and harassing or violent behavior. The charge stems from a December 23rd incident for which North Tonawanda police were dispatched to Our Lady of Jehovah Church on the Center Avenue and then the complainant's house. The victim told officers that day that she'd been with LaMarca at the church earlier to help with flower arrangements. An argument ensued, and LaMarca told her to leave and to give back her keys to the church. While returning the keys in another room, she said LaMarca walked in and they began arguing again. He grabbed her upper arms and pushed her against the counter. She told LaMarca to let her go and was able to wrestle herself away and leave the church. The woman declined to pursue charges that day, the police said. The next day, North Tonawanda police were again dispatched to talk to the woman, who told them that she had visited a doctor for a contusion on her upper arm. She told the officers that she wanted to pursue charges. LaMarca turned himself in to North Tonawanda police on January the 9th and was arraigned on the second-degree harassment charge. The Diocese of Buffalo did not respond to a request for the comment. It had released statement last week, noting it was gathering all and examining all available information that would allow this matter to be handled in court, and that would fully cooperate with law enforcement. LaMarca has served as Buffalo Bill's Catholic chaplain since 2023. Then there is video shows refugee released by Border Patrol. Nearly blind man was dropped off at a closed coffee shop 5 days before his death. In moments after Border Patrol agents dropped him off at a Buffalo donut shop, surveillance video recorded Nurul Amin Shah Alam stepping gingerly through the empty parking lot in his county-issued jail booties. He pulls up his hood against the cold as he walks past the driveway window, then paces away into the night. 5 nights later, the nearly blind refugee from Myanmar was found dead in the street, raising questions about whether federal agents could have done more to ensure his safety. Oh, well, yeah. When they released him from custody miles from his home without informing his family or lawyer. That's horrible. Video obtained by the investigative post shows Shah Alam, 56, after agents dropped him off at a Tim Hortons on the night of February the 19th, the day he was released from county jail where he had been held for a year. Good grief. Mayor Sean Ryan has said the restaurant was closed at the time. The not-for-profit news site says the footage obtained shows Shah Alam being led out of the Border Patrol van, which can be seen driving away, and then walking by the restaurant's locked door. U.S. Customs and Border Protection said this week they chose a warm, safe place for the drop-off. Shah Alam was found dead Tuesday outside the arena where the Buffalo Bills Sabres play. A woman called 911 to report his body lying on the sidewalk. It was unclear how he got to that downtown spot from the restaurant several miles away. It sounds like somebody really did a bad job. Buffalo police were reviewing footage throughout the city in an attempt to identify his movements. The county medical examiner is investigating the cause of death. Customs and Border Protection said agents offered Shah a courtesy ride to a location where his family had once lived, and that he had accepted the ride and showed no signs of distress or disability. The agency did not respond to an email seeking comment Friday. Legal Aid Bureau of Buffalo, Benjamin Macaluso, reported Shah Alam missing on Sunday. By then, Shah Alam's family knew he had been released from jail but had no idea of his whereabouts. Macaluso went to an area immigration detention center where he assumed Alam had been sent, but he was told he wasn't there. He visited hospitals and homeless shelters, searched the neighborhood where the family lived previously, and distributed missing person posters around the area. It wasn't until Monday that he learned, the Legal Aid Bureau said, that Shah Alam had been dropped off at the Tim Hortons. Buffalo police had no updates on Friday, but on Thursday released body camera footage of the incident that led to Shah Alam being jailed for a year. At one time, he was newly arrived in Buffalo, the Legal Aid Bureau said. He hardly knew the neighborhood where the family lived, spoke no English, practically no English, was blind in one eye and a very limited vision on the other. In the videos, police approach him in a snowy backyard as he holds what appears to be 2 curtain rods. The approaching officer shouts, "What are you doing?" and "Put it down," multiple times. Shah Alam, dressed in a hoodie, walks towards the officers, occasionally holding out his hand. Advocates for the family say Shah Alam wandered into the wrong property when the police were called and did not understand the officer's command because he did not speak English. In the body camera videos, one officer says, "I'm going to shoot you, dude." Oh, good grief. Before firing tasers and then taking him to the ground in a struggle and cuffing his hands behind his back. Police say Shah Alam bit 2 officers. Well, that's all he could do. Shah Alam was initially charged with felony assault, burglary, and criminal mischief. Good grief. A federal immigration detainee, I'm not making this up, by the way, I'm reading this. A federal immigration detainer was issued after his arrest. The Legal Aid Bureau said a strategic decision was made not to post bail after his arrest over fears he would be taken into custody by immigration officials. But lawyers advised Shah Alam's family it was safe to post bail after he pleaded guilty to 2 lesser misdemeanor charges. He was released from Erie County Holding Center February the 19th after posting bond. The county sheriff's office informed the U.S. Border Patrol about his pending release because of the immigration detainer. He was dropped off at Tim Hortons that night after federal authorities determined he wasn't eligible for deportation. Good grief. What is this world coming to? Well, we missed the moon blood red on Tuesday. Total eclipse of the moon, known as blood moon, is visible between skyscrapers in a downtown Chicago picture. I'm sure it was beautiful, but we had a cloudy night at that point. Well, I'm very sorry to have read that article. I thought maybe it might be a little more cheerful than that. Okay, so I did all this. Oh, here we go. Council backs, I'm back on the front page. Council backs tax breaks for veterans, and it would provide primary resident exemption for fully disabled individuals. This is Rick Pfeiffer at Niagara Gazette. Niagara Falls City Council has adopted a resolution, quote, affirming its support, end quote, for a change in state law that would exempt certain disabled veterans from property taxes on their primary residence. The resolution calls for city administrators to prepare a plan to implement the tax exemption by October the 1st and report back to the council on the implementation planning in the next 60 days. The council action follows the approval of an amendment in December 2025 to the state real property tax law, quote, establishing a real property tax exemption for veterans who have a 100% service-connected disability. The amendment originally called for the granting of the property tax exemption to be subject to the approval of local governments and school districts. Legislation signed by Kathy Hochul last week now makes the tax exemption mandatory across the state. That's fair. In the resolution supporting the new property tax exemption, council members Bridget Miles, Democrat, Vincent Cawley, Republican, stressed that the city, quote, supports meaningful property tax relief for veterans who have sustained the most serious service-related injuries, end quote. The city lawmakers are asking that the city administrators and corporation council reach out to the State Department of Taxation officials for guidance in implementing the exemption. To qualify for the exemption, a veteran must be, quote, permanently and totally disabled due to military service, end quote, and have a 100% disability rating from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. They must also have a VA determination of individual unemployability, end quote. A qualifying veteran must also be eligible for or receiving adaptive housing benefits. Veterans will need to apply for the exemption. In response to a question from Council Member James Perry about the effectiveness of the exemption on city property tax receipts, officials say Niagara Falls has estimated that roughly 30 residents would qualify for exemption. I think this is putting us on record as supporting our veterans, Miles said. Okay, so that's good news. One good news, anyway. Okay, we are now going to second page. Okay. Niagara University secures $525,000 to modernize theater technology. Upgraded facilities, a benefit to student programs. Special to the Gazette. Niagara University has been awarded $525,000 in funding to modernize its theater facilities. The project's looking into upgrade stage machinery, lighting, audio, and communication systems so Niagara University students can train for work in the film, television, and live production industries. Funding was secured through congressionally directed spending sponsored by Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York. Allocation was part of nearly $9.3 million in CDS awards secured for 7 Western New York projects, sponsored either individually or jointly by Senators Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, also Democrat, New York. University officials said, as New York State continues to emerge as a national hub for film and television production, this project will allow students to enter the workforce as set ready, quote unquote, professionals, providing a talent pipeline for the state's growing creative economy. We're deeply grateful to Senator Schumer for spearheading this transformative investment in Niagara University, said Reverend James J. Mayer, CM, president of Niagara University. By continuing to align our training with the industry's highest standards, we are ensuring that our graduates are prepared to drive the future of the state's thriving creative economy, thus supporting the Senator's vision for New York as a national hub for production, end quote. Niagara University offers BFA programs in 3 concentrations: performance, design and production, and theater specializations. The NU Theater program produces several professional quality shows each year, ranging from Shakespeare to musical reviews. All of the performances are held in the Elizabeth Ann Clune Center for Theater, and Leary Theater showcase the acting and dancing and vocal talents of Niagara University students. Okay, and another positive thing, shoreline assistance is available. New York State Sea Grant program provides free advice on options, special to the Gazette. This winter's extreme conditions along New York's Great Lakes are amplifying the natural actions of wind, water, ice, and storms that can cause significant shoreline erosion and economic damage to coastal businesses and personal properties, structures, and operations. New York Sea Grant is encouraging shoreline property owners to reach out now for free assistance in the planning of how to identify the best options for remediation and restoration from winter's impact. New York Sea Grant coastal processes and hazard specialist Roy Widrig has expertise with shoreline erosion management, flooding mitigation, living shorelines, and dune and natural habitat restoration. He works with individual property owners, municipalities, and community groups to address their location-specific shoreline erosion issues and options. Quote, one-size-fits-all shoreline remediation approaches should be avoided, as each property site has its own unique features, stressors, and resulting impact. Wildrig noted. New York Sea Grant provides both virtual and in-person assessments in considering each site place by place, end quote. The property owners can start now to document winter storm events and shoreline impact from storm surge and wave action SESH events along Lake Erie, or lake effect snow, ice, wind along Lake Ontario. Widrig initially uses photographs and descriptions uploaded by property owners to New York State Sea Grant virtual visit portal at nyseagrant.org/GL Coastal to make a preliminary evaluation of damage. He then contacts the property owners to discuss remediation options and, when warranted, schedules in-person site assessments. When hard structures or construction may be needed to restore or protect a shoreline property, Widrig provides information on best practices, local, state, and federal regulations, and how to select a waterfront project contractor. Widrig has assisted a wide range of projects in each New York State Great Lakes shoreline counties. Recent projects have included living shoreline installation, dune restoration, seawall repair, and drainage improvements. Widrig is the author of, quote, Working with Nature Guide, end quote, to match plant species native to New York to specific shoreline restoration needs. It can be reached through New York Sea Grant Oswego office at 315-234-1916 or RLW294 at cornell.edu. New York Sea Grant is a statewide, state university-based program that connects research and outreach and education to the needs of New York's coastal communities, environments, and economies. It's a cooperative program of Cornell University and the State University of New York, with 14 offices statewide, and part of the National Sea Grant College Program of the National Oceanic and Atmospherics Administration. So that should be helpful for some people, I would think. New York declared a Purple Heart state. Department of Veterans Services commemorates the designation. Staff reports. The New York State Department of Veterans Services hosted a kickoff program at the National Purple Heart Hall of Honor on Tuesday to commemorate New York State's official designation as a Purple Heart State. The program celebrated the history, meaning, and enduring legacy of the Purple Heart, while honoring service and sacrifice of New York service members who were awarded the nation's oldest military decoration, presented in the name of the United States President. The Purple Heart is awarded to members of the armed forces who were wounded or killed by enemy action, symbolizing extraordinary sacrifice in the defense of the nation. The origin of the award is traced to August the 7th, 1782, when George Washington created a badge of military merit for the Singularity Meritorious Act, end quote, among enlisted soldiers during the American Revolution. All but forgotten after the war, the award was revived as the Purple Heart on February the 22nd, 1932, coinciding with Washington's 200th birthday. Governor Kathy Hochul signed legislation designating New York as a Purple Heart State in 2025. Ohio, Washington, and Virginia have also adopted the designation. Excuse me. The Purple Heart State designation strengthens the promise we make to every person who wore the uniform of our nation, that their service will be honored, their benefits protected, and their opportunities expanded, not diminished, in civilian life, end quote. The Department of Veteran Services Commission, Viviana M.D. Cohen said, quote, by formally recognizing New York as a Purple Heart State, we reaffirm our commitment to honoring the courage and sacrifice of Purple Heart recipients and ensuring their stories continue to inspire future generations, end quote. It's estimated that approximately 2 million Purple Hearts have been awarded since 1932. No comprehensive list of recipients has been developed by the U.S. government, according to Josh Fitzpatrick, DVS Director of Public Information. The National Purple Heart Hall of Honor, a New York State museum located in Windsor, is the only museum dedicated to collecting and preserving and sharing stories of the Purple Heart recipients. One of its key features is the Roll of Honor, www.thepurpleheart.com/roll-of-honor, and an online database created and maintained by the Hall to honor and preserve the stories of the Purple Heart recipients. The Roll of Honor represents all 50 states, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Samoa. Oh, that's interesting. I'm sorry, I have to... Coming up, coming up this weekend is Green Beer Sunday. Green Beer Sunday at Tonawata's Gateway Harbor is taking place from noon to 4 p.m. on Sunday. The free event ushers in the St. Patrick's Day Irish season and starts with a short parade down Main Street from Broad Street to Canal Street Pavilion. Music will be provided by 3 parts whiskey, with Irish dancers performing during the event. Corned beef and other cuisine will be available at the Knights of Columbus. Irish beer and other alcoholic beverages will be available. Might be something to check out. Oakwood Cemetery has a meeting. We'll host an annual meeting at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Well, you missed it, so never mind. Let's see when this is. It doesn't say. No, this is on Wednesday too, so I won't read that either. Okay. Lewiston OK's clerk's office residency changes. Board members can take no action on creating new stormwater district by Robert Creenan. The Lewiston Town Board passed a residency requirement change that allows its town clerk's office to hire non-residents for the deputy clerk role. Good. The new law states that the deputy town clerks or deputy receivers do not need to be Lewiston residents. It also makes it clear that only outside residents from Niagara Falls, town of Cambria, Niagara, Porter, Wheatfield, and Wilson can be considered. With the change, Clerk Tamara Burns was able to hire Michelle Brion of Youngstown as a deputy clerk at a rate of $21.80 an hour starting Monday. The new law would also allow her to name candidates for second and third deputy clerk roles. No one spoke during the public hearing. There's also a public hearing for the creation of new drainage district for upper residential development on Upper Mountain Road and Bronson Drive, which also elicited no comments. The 177-unit development was first proposed by Branch View LLC, but Essex Development has since taken over. I can't read this, it's all smudged. The board took no action at this meeting with the town officials looking to meet with the developer about its next steps. Town attorney Alfonso Bax confirmed that they intend to create a homeowners association with the town to collect fees once the stormwater is created. North Tonawanda Red Jacket Club has plans for Donald Miller Park, applying for more than $200,000 in the Niagara River Greenway funding. This is also by Robert Creenan. The North Tonawanda Red Jacket Club has been running outdoor activities at Donald F. Miller Park on Sweeney Street since 1984. It's looking to make improvements at the site later this year. The North Tonawanda all-volunteer nonprofit wants to create a new walking trail featuring sensory elements and add bathroom facilities to 2 cabins. They've requested $205 and $205,109 from the Niagara River Greenway, and the funding request will be voted on at a future meeting. These additions will be more accommodating and increase the number of people we can serve, said the board member Carl Heilman. The year-round park hosted 4,219 people from 84 different groups last year, including some coming as far as Massachusetts, Indiana, and Germany. Club volunteers put on 19 different activities at the 23-acre park, from snowshoeing and cross-country skiing to indoor constellations and Dutch oven cooking. Heilman described their trail idea like the Autism Trail at Letchworth State Park, featuring activities for people of every age and ability. It would have a variety of walking surfaces, musical instruments, and a board with letters using different textures. When you're back here, you feel like you're in nature, Heilman said. It's a positive for people to enjoy. You're located between Niagara Falls and Buffalo, yet you're stepping into the wilderness. Current bathroom facilities for 2 cabins are in their own building 150 feet away. The new addition will have private stalls and changing facilities that will provide increased accessibility and ensure that those staying do not have to leave their cabin during the night. Depending on whether and when the Niagara County Host Community Standing Committee approves the funding, the club wants to start improvement work this spring and be finished by October. The total listed project cost is $253,609, with $238,609 from construction, $10,000 for planning, and $5,000 for maintenance over the first 5 years. The North Ton Red Jacket Club has received letters of support from North Tonawanda Mayor Austin Tylick, State Senator Robert Orr, County Legislators Richard Andres, Randy Brandt, Jesse Gooch, Jeffrey Elder, and Sean Fody, along with organizations that use the park like the local Boys and Girl Scout troops. The club has already received $11,000 from the Kelly for Kids Foundation and $2,000 from the East Hill Foundation for these improvements. They also applied for $125,000 from the Ralph Wilson Jr. Legacy Fund, but that has yet to be awarded. Okay, I think we have police reports. Arrest. A false man was arrested after an investigation into a burglary from a garage in 900 block of Cedar Avenue at 10:30 p.m. February the 19th. He was charged with third-degree burglary, third-degree grand larceny, and is accused of taking a snowblower, the value at more than $2,000, along with a propane tank and a garage heater. Police said the theft was captured on video by their security system. There's another arrest. Oh, there are three altogether. This is the second. A Falls woman was arrested for shoplifting incident at a store, the 2800 block of Pine Avenue, at 3:30 a.m. February the 21st. She was charged with petty larceny and is accused of taking 2 cans of Four Loco without paying for the items. Arrest. This is the third one. At Ransomville, woman was arrested after a shoplifting incident in a store in the 7200 block of Niagara Falls Boulevard at 11:43 a.m. February the 21st. She was charged with petty larceny and is accused of taking an unidentified amount of merchandise without paying for the firms. Okay, so that's that. And I'm turning a page here. And we'll go to page 4 I read already. I read you all of that. And now going, okay, this is let's see, this is opinions page. This is a guest view. Public health is not doing well. Almost 250 years ago, George Washington created America's first mass immunization mandate, relying on science to protect public health. Now, how times have changed. Back then, smallpox had just helped end the Continental Army's invasion of Canada. Despite making it all the way to Quebec, thousands of soldiers contracted the disease. Washington feared the same would happen to his own troops, fresh from their surprise victories at Trenton and Princeton. As Washington wrote at the time, quote, "Necessity not only authorizes but seems to require the measure. For should the disorder infect the army and the natural way, the rage with its visual virulence, we would have more to dread from it than from the sword of the enemy," end quote. The inoculation of Washington's time were crude. No genuine vaccine existed. Instead, scabs or pus were taken from someone infected with smallpox and then placed into scratches or small wounds. Another option was to inhale it. Interesting. Either way, those who developed variolation inevitably developed fevers, rashes, and other symptoms of smallpox. At least 1% of those who received it died. Still, without his tough choice, the Continental Army might have failed entirely, and America with it. These days, safe vaccines are available for diseases that ravaged our ancestors. Forms of influenza, hepatitis, chickenpox, polio, rubella, mumps, measles, and many other diseases can now be prevented. The smallpox virus that Washington dreaded has been eradicated. The quality and availability of vaccines is a modern miracle, one that all humanity should be proud of. Yet, according to the data from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, vaccination rates for measles in the U.S. are declining. The number of cases is climbing. More and more parents are opting against vaccination for their children, which gives these diseases room to spread. Last year, 2 children in Texas died of a completely preventable disease. An outbreak in South Carolina so far has sickened almost 1,000 people, most of them children. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware have all slipped below the 95% vaccination rate, and the CDC says it's necessary to keep measles outbreak at bay. Despite being nearly eliminated in 2000, rates have reached their highest levels in decades. According to CDC, more than 90% of infections occur in people who are either unvaccinated or have unknown inoculation status. Given this group makes up less than 10% of the overall population, that's a staggering concentration of sickness. It is also isn't a surprise the vaccines work. Parents offer a range of justifications for refusing vaccination. Some cite religious faith that discourages inoculation. Others feel that the schedule of shots is too concentrated. A number of them mention debunked fears of shots causing autism. It doesn't help matters that Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a leading skeptic of both vaccines and modern medicine. Kennedy has strong opinions about public health based on no formal Kennedy has strong opinions about public health based on no formal medical training. Under JFK Jr., the CDC has reduced the number of recommended vaccinations for children, and groups aligned with the secretary are working to overturn the state vaccine mandates. This is a kind of privileged ignorance that can only thrive in a post-vaccine world where mass immunizations has dramatically changed the life for the better. In 1900, 30% of all U.S. deaths occur in children under the age of 5. In 1915, the infant mortality rate was 100 out of every 1,000 live births. As late as 1952, a polio outbreak killed more than 3,000 people. Unfortunately, rising vaccine refusal rates has bring some of this suffering back, while city health officials urge calm in the wake of possible exposure. At Philadelphia International Airport earlier this month, these events will only increase as vaccination rates continue to fall, so unnecessarily deaths will be children. Instead of turning back the clock, our leaders and parents must learn from Washington's example. Necessity requires that they vaccinate our children. That's from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Okay, now here is Thoughts on Consumer Confidence. This is by B.B. Singer, a commentary. What do you think of this recent term that sometimes makes the front page, i.e., quote, consumer confidence? Question mark, end quote. I find it an odd one indeed, and certainly don't recall reading about it as a teen back in the late 50s or early 60s. Of course, I mainly read the sport pages from those days, not to mention the comics. Still, this term, consumer confidence, sometimes mystifies me. I basically find it silly and pretentious and really non-news. To those which you may well reply, and justifiably, what about consumers trying to get a certain goods in the era of COVID, or when supply chains got severely rattled, or what if people simply finding prices of certain items too steep for their budget? Well, point well taken. But I guess part of my problem with this consumer confidence estimate is that we've already become an over-the-top consumer society anyway. Too often we take and we don't make, which can be a problem, no? As Mr. Trump might want America manufacturing going gangbusters again, I'd say emphatically yes, but no as well. Part of me salutes the president on this issue, deems as a smart and realistic policy. Why let communist China continue to pilfer, use poorly paid workers to decline one industry after another over here? The Rust Belt? Residents of Buffalo, Niagara certainly know that a good deal about that, and not just as an abstract trope to be tossed around in talk shows by journalists or think tank types. So why did I go ambivalent on you and also put in no above? Because manufacturing of, say, steel and aluminum, not to mention coal mining, oil production, and rare earth extraction, all can conclude, and all badly, which means more respiratory problems, higher cancer rates, you name it. There, again, residents, most particularly of the Falls, have searing memories of a certain site with the word canal in it. I won't go on and read that ultra-tragic occurrence, telling you that many know so much better from bitter experience. Is my no redolent? I, too, of the NIMBY stance that many progressives now take when it comes to installation of wind gizmos and so forth. I guess so. Like everyone, I like the purest air possible and anything that facilitates good health. Yet I still admire what President Trump is trying to do in this regard. One key part being the reduction of our balance of payments problem, an addiction to indebtedness, and which is also related to this consumerism go-go here. He's not wrong to preach to a couple Christian toys from China per kid versus 30 odd. Not wrong either to deploy nearly empty cargo planes flying to Beijing and returning stuffed with high-tech fare, sometimes mislabeled on manifest to exclude restrictions. Consumer confidence? My foot. Although you'll hate me, I have yet another devil's advocate view brewing inside, and it's ready to mock my initial position here, which is that you do have to have consumer confidence in one domain, i.e., in the food items we buy and eat. That I readily concede, but on balance, I still don't like this phrase for the so-called, quote, news, end quote, I'm opposed to ingest on it. As in, quote, consumer confidence fell last month by 1.7%. And don't you forget it. More important than potential nuclearization of Iran, Russia, destruction of Ukraine, or America drug problem? No way. Mostly this feels to me like ersatz news, and pretentiously pretentious. To me, and portentous. Me, I'm still going to keep the skipping anything they say, tell me, on it. I imagine many of you readers also jump away from such economic gobbledygook, and these individuals who don't like having which administration's policies skewered on this oh-so-official sounding way. I certainly lack chutzpah when I'm forced to talk on roofs of high ceilings, but lack of consumer confidence? So far, amidst this amazing cornucopia of goods and services we've grown to expect, and which has, if anything, become even more handy and copious, I haven't yet experienced the now hyphened malaise. A greater problem here is a severe lack of gratitude for that so many industries have innovated, going back to Edison, Ford, and the rest, and which too often get taken for granted for consumer. But consumer confidence, 3 big boos. Okay, I have time for the last one of the opinions. This is Looking Straight Ahead by Stephen V. Roberts, commentary. He's, I guess, for the Niagara Gazette. Donald Trump has waged war on the news media his entire career, frequently deriding journalists as enemies of the people and real scum. In his second term, he's gone far beyond name-calling, suing the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, exerting regulatory pressure on the parent companies of CBS and ABC, defunding of the NPR and PBS, and arresting journalists Don Lemon and Georgia Ford. One of the most serious threats to press freedom has been playing out in the low-level federal court in Virginia. It has already weakened the ability of journalists to hold this power-hungry president accountable for his reactions. But a brave federal judge has now thwarted the administration and struck a strong blow for press freedom. On January the 14th, federal agents raided the home of Washington Post reporter Hannah Nattison, seizing 2 phones, 2 laptops, and other devices. The ostensible reason is that Nattison had received and published information from Angelo Luis Perel Leones, a federal contractor who was later indicted for mishandling governmental secrets. Under the First Amendment, it's not criminal for a journal. It's not criminal for a journalist. I don't understand. Why am I reading this wrong? So I'm going to start over again. Under the First Amendment, it is not a crime for journalists to disclose classified documents, but legal punishment was not the purpose of the raid. It was to deter and demoralize both the reporters and the sources who might document the president's many mistakes and misdeeds. This is the first time in U.S. history that the government has searched a reporter's home in a national security media leak investigation, seizing potentially a vast amount of confidential data and information.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another